Hello, and welcome to Life Matters, the program where we engage life issues with critical thinking and a biblical worldview. Life Matters is an educational outreach resource of Assure Women's Center in Omaha, Nebraska. We're honored to host a variety of guests within the pro-life movement, each bringing their own unique perspectives, experiences, and backgrounds. The views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Life Matters, Assure Women's Center, or our affiliates. Our goal is to foster open, thoughtful dialogue around life-affirming issues and equip listeners to stand for life.
Today I have two very special guests joining me, my daughters, Alissa and Aliah. Both are part of Generation Z, and as their mom, I've spent years trying to pass along faith, biblical values, and a respect for the sanctity of human life. Today we're going to have an honest conversation about what they remember hearing growing up, what messages resonated most, what didn't, and how their generation thinks about life, faith, relationships, and culture. If you're a parent or grandparent, church leader, or anyone who cares about reaching the next generation, I think you'll find this conversation both encouraging and insightful. Alissa and Aliah, welcome to our program.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
I'm glad that you all said yes. So. All right, first tell our listeners a little about yourselves and what stage of life you're currently in. Let's start with you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Alissa. I live in Dallas, Texas. I just graduated with my master's degree in animation. And I'm taking some time to work on my portfolio. Recently married. So that's about the stage of life I'm in right now.
All right. What about you, Aliah?
I'm Aliah. I graduated from college last year. Right now I'm trying to find my next step in my professional journey, as well as coaching right now.
Okay, good. And you guys are just both very beautiful. What do you remember us talking about in conversations about relationships and faith and family? What do you remember?
I feel like for me, one constant thing that came up was like value. Whether it's value for yourself, value for other people. I feel like one thing that was just constantly instilled is that we intrinsically have value. And we should see the value in others, whether it's from the womb to the tomb. But God values you, and therefore you value others.
Okay. Then what about you?
I feel like the common thing across across all categories is really just like having a strong foundation, whether it's a strong foundation in your faith, a strong foundation in relationships.
Yeah. Did we talk about relationships a lot? What kind of messages did you guys hear when we talked about relationships?
I would say like the healthy things in relationships and things to look for and what to avoid.
Okay. Good.
I would agree with that. I think there was always like, when you get married or when you find somebody that you love, this is how they treat you. This is how they should respect you. So I think things like that were really taught as well.
Yeah. Good. Did you know growing up that your mom worked in the pro-life movement?
Yes. I have an anecdote about this. I remember when you first started in the schools as a safe relationships teacher, and you took me to your classrooms a couple times. And just as an elementary schooler, it was eye-opening to see some of the high school students react to you, but also really cool to see you kind of step into your own in front of a classroom of kids. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of remember taking you to one of those classes, and I don't remember which day it was, but I just remember the conversation was probably a little more advanced than where you were age-wise. And I remember us getting in the car and you asking about a particular thing, and I'm like, oh, shoot. I forgot we talked about that in class, but then having to explain to you, probably what that meant earlier than I was planning to talk to you about it. But what about you, Ladybug?
I don't think at first I didn't realize that it was like pro-life, but I remember specifically like the little baby models that you had, and I always liked to play with them. And so I think it was always around to a certain extent, but I don't think I really understood it until I was like at an age of understanding.
Yeah, that's probably right. Because I think I started teaching in the schools. So speaking in the schools, you were probably 3 or 4. And so you probably didn't quite realize it then. Alyssa was a little older. So, yeah. What are some of your earliest memories of hearing conversations about abortion or the value of human life?
I think for me back to the little babies. I don't know how old I was when you had those around, but um I think that's when I first saw that like a baby is a baby before it's before you can tell.
Mhm.
I don't know if I can recall any specific beginning to our conversations, but I feel like there were, like what Aaliyah was saying, it was kind of there, like the babies were there. It was never anything that you had to sit us down and be like, hey, listen, this is when life starts, because it was just kind of ingrained, like it was just
Mhm.
present.
Good. Like Aaliyah, I remember you taking some of the baby models, some of the smaller baby models to school, and you went to a Christian school, and I just remember thinking, what did you talk to the kids about, or whatever? Just because I don't think every household is not as open about some of the conversations that we had, and so I was a little bit concerned about that. But okay, good. It's good for me to, if I can't go back in time, but if I could, this is good for me to think about what I would say again, or perhaps to my grandchildren one of these days. Looking back now as adults, what messages about the sanctity of life stay with you the most?
I think for me, one thing is that all life is precious from conception till death. I think now as I go through life, I see life is precious to people I don't know, to people that are close to me, but like just at all stages of life, learning to value the people that we interact with and learning to value them at whatever stage of life that they're at.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. So many parents wonder if their children are actually listening when they talk about important values. Were there conversations or moments that seemed small at the time but ended up having a significant impact on you?
I remember going to Planned Parenthood
Hmm.
and praying. Uh,
Hmm.
and even holding a sign once or twice. And I
Hmm.
think at the time it was like, "Oh yeah, this is just what we do. Like this is what we believe." But like looking back, I do think that was foundational in what I believe now. And kind of establishing that like I truly believe that life is valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I appreciated it at the time of like I didn't understand like the depth of it, but like now being grown, I understand that a little bit more and I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that when I remember it.
Good. Lee, you have any memories?
I think I only remember going to Planned Parenthood once, and I don't know, but I think same as what Alyssa said, that in the moment it was like yeah, this is what we do, like whatever, but now that I'm older, I understand the value of it more.
Hmm. Good. What role did the church play in shaping your views on life, faith, and relationships?
I think it helped create a secure foundation. Um, like I think if your foundation is Christ, then kind of everything follows after that.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I wouldn't assign it to anything with relationships necessarily, I don't think, but faith, like I remember like JBQ, I feel like that really helped me understand things a lot more. So,
Hmm. Yeah, JBQ's Junior Bible Quiz. It was like a competition to study the Bible, know Bible verses, but also answer some questions, and that was one of the things I enjoyed doing with both of you guys. Leah was competed more so than Alyssa did, but it was just kind of fun to learn those Bible verses, and I do think that helps instill faith because you're learning Bible verses, you're actually studying the Bible, so that is a very good foundation. Do you feel like churches talked enough about life issues when you were growing up? Why or why not?
I feel like they did talk about it, but I feel like they could have talked about it more. Uh,
Mhm,
I think oftentimes we approach it from like a theological standpoint of like this is an idealized version of like how we should live or how we should treat people. But sometimes we don't dig into like the nitty gritty of what it means to actually love somebody or to actually um, exist in a world that is challenging to you. So I think that I do think that church covered a lot of the bases. I think that there's room for more interpersonal,
mhm,
like really getting into the nitty gritty of it.
mhm, mhm,
yeah, I agree. I think that like there's always the common theme of like Jeremiah 29:11, um like where like you knit me together in my mother's womb, like, and I don't think we really go into depth on that enough, so
Mhm.
and I really don't remember any like specific like life matters until I
Cool.
was older, and like you would go into to share about a shirt and stuff at church. So
Mhm. Yeah, that's something I feel like even growing up, I don't remember. I've said it before. I don't really remember very many life messages growing up. Not to say that they didn't happen. I just have no memory of them when I was your age, growing up, even younger than you all were. And even when we came to Omaha and to the church that we're currently visiting, I think I started hearing more about it when we started to attend the church that we attend, which is good news. But don't I can't really recall much of conversations about life and life issues around the church. And I definitely think that the church should do more. Because once again, you guys are hearing things, once again, you guys are both Gen Zs. You both went to college. You both have very busy lives. And you always have, whether it was sports or color guard. And so you all are hearing things, from society. And if the church where families are not speaking into your other ear, you tend to hear more of this, more of culture. And so I definitely think the church needs to be a little more active in talking about life issues. How did your generation generally view abortion and pregnancy when you were in high school and college?
I feel like in high school there wasn't much discussion about it. It could also just be like me and my friends, like that just wasn't really anything to discuss. But I feel like
Mhm.
um in college, and especially now, I think not just because of my age, but just because of like society in general, I think it's becoming like abortion is becoming really normalized,
Mhm.
and like on social media it's almost like it's taken very lightheartedly.
I would agree with Aaliyah. I think it is definitely being taken very lightheartedly. It's not seen as the life-changing decision that it is. I think when I was in college, for sure, it was like, oh, it's a woman's choice or whatever's best for her. Um, and it has slowly progressed a little bit to being
Mhm.
more accepted and normalized.
Mhm. Do either of you have friends that perhaps have had an abortion that you know of?
Not that I know of.
Not that I know of
Yeah.
either.
Mm. That's something that I have some friends that few friends, and when I was about your age actually, that had abortions, and I don't know that I really was prepared to speak to them about the choice that they made back then, because I'm not where I am today. But I would say, just having walked through that with a couple of my friends, it's something tough to walk through. It's something very tough to walk through.
Life Matters is the program where we engage life issues with critical thinking and a biblical worldview, and it is a ministry of Assure Women's Center. Assure Women's Center is a nationally recognized pro-life pregnancy center based in Omaha, Nebraska. Assure is helping women with unplanned pregnancies take the first step to life. To learn more about the ministry of Assure, visit firststeptolife.com. That's firststeptolife.com. There you can learn about the many services we provide, including how we come alongside abortion-minded mothers and empower women to choose life for her and her baby.
Today we're talking with my two daughters, Alissa and Aliah, about faith, family, Generation Z, and what it looks like to pass life-affirming values from one generation to the next. What are some of the biggest misconceptions Gen Z has about the pro-life movement?
I think one big misconception is that the pro-life movement only cares about babies before they're born,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's all about coercion, forcing
Mm-hmm.
women to have babies. But I think if they would do a little bit more digging, that a lot of Gen Z would see that so much of the pro-life movement is empowering women to choose life. No woman wants to have like wakes up and says, "I want to have an abortion." So the pro-life movement just gives her the tools that she needs to choose life for her child,
Mm-hmm.
rather than control. It's about love.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Good. Do you guys think that there's anything that the pro-life movement gets right when communicating with young people?
I think that I would say lately there probably has been more improvements. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, I think that a lot of people are trying to really show more of the love through it um instead of coming off as judgmental.
Listening thing?
Yeah, I agree with Aaliyah. I think nobody wants to be told that what they believe is wrong or what they believe is evil. And so I think that now the pro-life movement is starting, like Aaliyah said, to shift towards showing more of the love or the compassion. I think that's
Mm.
a really strong approach for Gen Z.
Yeah. That's good. I've had a few people on our program that teach people how to talk to people that have a different view from you. From you, many of those happen on the college campus, and so there are people that feel like we're trying to have those conversations in a way that's not as judgmental and not as combative as they can be. And so I think we're making strides in the pro life movement to approach life issues with young people in a way that is acceptable and a little easier to take. So, which is good. What are some things that the pro life movement could do better when communicating with Gen Zs?
I think making sure that they're not displaying like a holier than thou attitude. Um and like I said, I think there has been improvements, but I think there's still a lot of room to grow in in making sure that I think expressing the message that you're there for both the mother and the child and not just a baby being born.
That's good. Any thoughts, Liz?
Yes, I think leading with even more empathy. Um,
Hmm.
Gen Zs are under a lot of stress right now. And so I think finding common ground or being able to understand um, the reason why maybe Gen Zs would support abortion and then being able to work with them through a better choice or better option, I think that's always the way to go.
Okay, good, good. So many people describe Gen Zs as being passionate about justice, inclusion, and helping vulnerable people. Do you think those values can connect naturally to a pro life worldview? Why or why not?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think at the core of the pro life worldview is the value of life from womb to tomb. Maybe sometimes we take a very narrow or a very close in, like zoomed in approach to pro life from birth, conception to birth. But I think if we widen that lens a little bit, we'll see a lot of overlap in what Gen Z values and then like what the pro life movement values. A truly like support, connection, empathy in helping people reach their full potential or just be embedded or empowered. I think that there is a lot of potential overlap.
Mhm. So when your friends talk about difficult issues like abortion, pregnancy, relationships, or parenting, what concerns seem to matter most to them?
I would say financial stability, um, and just like where they're at in life. Um, I feel like just all around in society now is a really difficult time to live
Hmm.
and and especially like as we're going from um like as we're entering into adulthood, I think it's hard for a lot of people to get solid footing right now.
Hmm.
And so the idea of trying to bring a life into this world, into their situation, and also with all of the problems going on in the world,
Hmm.
I think it's hard for people to wrap their heads around that.
Definitely, I agree with that. I think financial struggles are a huge burden, a huge concern for people who are considering life or death for their child. I also think post COVID, the loss of community is really difficult for people to cope with as well. There's
Count.
a lot less villages to raise the children, and I think
Hmm.
that's something that people really feel when they consider parenting.
I would agree. I think you guys kind of nailed it on the head. I think COVID has not been our friend. Just the culture, the political climate that we're living in right now is not very friendly. And so I feel like not just Gen Zs, I think there are a lot of people that have apprehensions or fears about so many things. And I honestly feel like that kind of ties into some of the decisions that they make, really basing some of their decisions out of fear, because they don't know, what tomorrow brings. And so, whether that's, friendships or relationships or having a baby or whatever, I think sometimes all of those issues tend to play on the minds of those that are making a decision for life with their unborn babies. And you guys kind of nailed that on the head. How important is authenticity when discussing life issues with Gen Zs?
I think it's so important. Gen Z really cares for authenticity. We really care that you mean what you say. And so if you're trying to convince somebody or explain to them that life is the best choice, like you better believe it for yourself too. You better believe what you're preaching. When they have the baby, are you going to be around to help them? I think part of authenticity is like committing to the cause 100%. So I think Gen Z absolutely needs that in conversation. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that authenticity is probably one of, if not the most important things that is needed when communicating with Gen Z, especially in topics like this.
Good, good. What causes a young adult to tune out a message, even if the message itself is true?
I think tone for sure, 100%. Especially Elia mentioned earlier, like if you come across as holier than thou, then
Hmm.
it's and immediately ears are closed. Tone is, I think, probably one of the biggest things.
Same thing for you, Leah?
Yeah, I think tone, and then also um like a when there's a history of approaching things a certain way, it's hard to switch your mindset once you've been used to the way that things have been expressed.
So this is a question that will help me and maybe some other parents and grandparents. What communication styles make your generation more willing to listen and engage in meaningful conversations?
I think Gen Z really wants to be heard. I think we're more open to a conversation if we know that you'll listen to us.
I would say probably empathy and understanding.
All right. So I guess I have some learning to do. I'll be more empathetic and I'll listen and not talk as much. Is that what you say I should do, Aaliyah?
I think everyone can work on those things.
Okay. All right, good. Social media has shaped so much of our of your generation's worldview. How has social media influenced conversations about abortion and life issues?
I think a lot of times people go to social media for answers um, instead of talking it out with someone more reasonable. And
Mhm.
then um, things, it really just becomes like a snowball effect on social media as well. Um, and then also, I think it's easy to make lighthearted jokes on social media that end up becoming more reality than jokes.
Mhm.
Um, and so people start joking about life issues, and then it just at some point it stops being a joke and it becomes real life.
Mhm.
I think social media helps bring a lot of access to the conversation, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's definitely a connection that people can explore. And like Leah said, I think um, there's a lot of room for jokes on social media. But I think the part of the positive thing is that people who are questioning, people who have general thoughts or concerns, it is a place for them to talk about it. And hopefully, people from the pro life movement are able to respond to that.
Mhm. Um, Alyssa, as a married woman, have any of your perspectives on life, family, marriage, or parenting changed as you've gotten older?
Yes, 100%. I feel like I used to hear older people talking about relying on God. And at first, like when I was younger, it seemed like, oh, okay, whatever. But like now being married, like I truly do understand the need to speak to God on a daily basis and to rely on my community. There's a closeness that you experience in marriage that you don't experience anywhere else. And
Mhm.
truly, I think it tests the foundation of yourself and your faith. So I think being married has 100% challenged my relationship with God, but also like forced me to rely on Him a little bit more.
Hmm. What advice would you guys give parents who want to pass their faith and pro-life values on to their children?
I think explaining the why behind the stance is
Yeah.
huge. Um,
Mhm.
because as children get older and they start to think through some of the things that they've heard, understanding the importance, like the reason behind it,
Mhm.
is what keeps them strong in their faith and
Okay.
strong in their beliefs.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I feel like a lot of people who do either step away from the faith or find themselves questioning, it's because they don't know why, and it's like they know what they're supposed to do, but they don't know why, and it causes them to, I think, search for that why in other places.
Good. All right, finally, if you could leave our listeners with one encouragement about raising the next generation to love God, value life, and stand firm in their faith, what would it be?
I would say just lead with love, um, and always try to be more empathetic.
I agree. Uh, be empathetic and be willing to listen to the concerns of the Gen Z. And also remember that you used to be a young person yourself and like think back to when you were that age, how would you want to be spoken to? How would you want somebody to connect the dots for you?
That's good. That's good. All right, Alyssa and Aaliyah, thank you both for joining me today and for sharing your perspectives. I think many parents, grandparents, and church leaders will be encouraged to hear that the conversations that we're having today may make a bigger impact than they realize. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us for Life Matters.
We want to thank you for joining us on Life Matters this week. Life Matters is an educational outreach resource of Assure Women's Center in Omaha, Nebraska. To learn more about the ministry of Assure, visit firststeptolife.com. There you can learn about the many services we provide, including how we come alongside abortion-minded mothers and empower women to choose life for her and her baby, as well as find our most current broadcasts and all of our past episodes. Thanks for listening to Life Matters. Join us again next week at the same time right here on Bot Radio Network.